Hello and welcome to the fourth installment of our Advanced WordPress Development course. In this one, we're going to take a look at the command line. We're going to look at how the terminal looks, how it works, and just some of the things that you can accomplish. And hopefully I'll be able to dispel the notion that this is something scary or something that's very difficult to use. It's actually pretty simple and very straightforward. All right, let's get started. Linux users are at a bit of an advantage here because we have the terminal, this one, right here. So does Linux. For Windows, you have the command line, which is not nearly as powerful. So most of the time you'll be installing something like Cygwin. Take a look at the article for more information on that. What I can also recommend is downloading PuTTY for Windows and SSHing into a server, in which case you'll see the exact same thing. We will take a look at SSHing in a second, so you'll be able to gather some info from that there. Alright, so let's move on and presume that you have a terminal open. The command line or the terminal is basically a way to issue commands to your system. You can do anything that you can do in the user interface, but with added power. It's a very easy way to think about it is that it's just like WordPress in the sense that when you open the terminal, it comes bundled with a bunch of functions or commands that you can use to get things done, just like WordPress. But you can download plugins which add functionality and allows you to do even more, just like WordPress. So let's get started. When you open a terminal, you'll see a bit of information on top, and there are three things to know here. First of all, this is my username on the system. This is the system that I'm logged into, and this is the directory I'm in. This is a special character that signifies the home directory, which on OS 10 would be my users/Daniel Pataki directory. So that's all there is to it. All you need to know is that right now I am in a directory, which is my users directory. So I could go to desktop, in which case you would see that I am now in my desktop folder. And I could go back, in which case I'm back in my home folder. So there we go. Our first command, cd, is a change directory command, and you give it a directory to change to, like desktop. And then if you go back, dot signifies go back one directory. So you go back one directory. What I can also do is create directories. So that would be the make directory command. And I can make a directory named test. And there we go. It says that this already exists because I've actually tested this previously, which is fine. I can remove the directory first. Remove directory, test. And then I can make the directory again. There we go. So if I list ls, that shows me all the directories or all the directories and files in the current directory. And you can see that this is my home directory and here's the test that I've created. So let's go into that directory now. There we go. All right, if I list it, there's nothing there because I haven't created any files. So just to recap, we've seen a couple of commands so far. The change directory command, which allows you to change to a specified directory. The rmdir command or remove directory command, which allows you to remove an empty directory. And then there's the make directory command, which allows you to create a specified directory. And then there's the ls command, which allows you to list a directory. Simple enough, right? Well, it's not going to get too difficult, actually. That's basically all there is to know. Apart from some ways of issuing commands, and of course there's a wealth of knowledge in here, but most of it is, breadth of knowledge, not really anything that would be really, really complex. So I think the easiest way forward would be to figure out how to add parameters to commands. Like for example, we've already seen one because when you type cd test, cd is the command and then you add a parameter which is test, and the parameter tells the cd command where you want to go. There are other ways of specifying parameters. For example, here's the list command. Let's just go back. Here's the list command, and you could also say ls-a. And in this case, it would also list hidden files, .files. You could type ns-l, which should give you a lot more detail. And you can combine these, so you could say ls, so this, minus la, and this would give you the same list, but with the hidden files. So these are called usually flags, and this is the L flag and the A flag. And you don't need to specify them separately like this, you can just type them together. The dash signifies that you're going to be listing flags, and you just list all the flags that you need. A way which you might see parameters being added is the double dash. Let me give you an example. There's a command called WP, which is a shortcut for the WP-CLI command, which allows you to remotely manage WordPress from the command line. So you could have something like WP core install, which would install WordPress in a directory, and you could pass it a parameter called quiet, and that would suppress any messages that it wants to give you, like status messages, error messages, and so on. So and basically that's it. You might be able to add more, like for example, allow root. You don't really need to know what these mean, and maybe prompt and things like that. So these are multiple options, and some of these might even have values, like for example, WP core config I think has something called db user, and let's say root and db password. So when you're configuring WordPress, these allow you to set the username, the user of the database, and the password of the database. So basically, just to recap quickly, there are 3 or 4 things you need to know about commands. When you issue a command, you type the command first, and then you use any arguments. Some of them are just plain text, like core config. Some of them use flags, like -dfg, or for example, this isn't valid for this command, by the way. And then sometimes you have double dashes, like quiet. And then sometimes you have double dashes with values like db user equals root. Just a side note here, if you want to do something like title and it contains a space, you'll need to quote it. So my title, there we go. So basically, this is everything you need to know about issuing, the basics of issuing commands. And you'll be able to understand much better what's going on. My other tip is to always use Google. For example, if you want to know the specifics of a command, like ls command docs, there we go. And you can see the description and all the flags that it uses. So for example, if we have a command ls, you can show all the files starting with a dot. So these are dot files. There we go. We've taken a look at this before. And you can see all the flags that there are, and you can just go through them and find what you need and use them. There we go. So after saying yes to a confirmation message and adding my password, I'm now in my server. So you can see that I'm logged in as Daniel Pataki, and this is the name of the server, DE0 Daniel Pataki. There we go. So now if I do an ls, you can see the folders, and this is now a remote computer. So the downside of this though is you need to know where your things are. So I do know that it's a cd public. So I just changed the public directory, and there we go. This is a WordPress installation. And now I can do things like lala.html. I wonder what that is. So I can now do things like WP, let's see, option get set URL. This may take a second sometimes, but you can see that basically this is a website running at danielpataki.com. To do things like list my plugins, plugin list. We'll get into the WP-CLI commands a bit later, but you can see that I'm running a couple of plugins and their versions. So that's basically it. And there are a bunch of things you can do here. You can look into files and so on. So I think maybe the next thing to look at, which I didn't look at in the article because it's just so complex to explain, is editing files. So let's take a look at that now. Logged in somewhere via SSH, you can't use the same methods that you use on your own computer. You can't open a file in a text editor and then save it, and then it will magically, be saved and updated. You would need to download a file, edit it, and then re-upload it, which is so $19.99. So we should look for a better way of doing things. And the better way of doing things is editing it in place via something like maybe VI. VI is an in-place text editor for the command line, and it's a bit difficult to get used to if you haven't tried it yet. But I think it's definitely worth it. It's one of those things which I'm not really good at. I know how to edit things basically, but I think it's just a learning process, and it's the way I learn things. First of all, I just use it for things that I really need to, and then when I'm comfortable, I look at ways to improve the experience for myself. So I'll show you what I know, and then you can just take that and start building upon it yourself. So the VI command allows you to open a file like index.php, and the important thing to note is that here that VI has an editing mode and a command mode, and by default you're in a command mode. So if I just press a button now, nothing will really happen. I can cruise through it though with the arrow keys. So what you want to do is press I, which will put it into insert mode, as you can see at the bottom. I just pointed to it, but I don't think you saw that. And then this allows you to edit the file as you would normally. So you could do something like hello. And what you need to do to save this is to press escape, which would go back to command mode, and then press, do a colon. That would be a shift for me. So colon and then Q would quit, and W will save the file. So if I do colon W and press enter, you can see that I've written to the file. What I can also do is edit it again by pressing I, hello Daniel, and I can press escape and colon WQ, which will save the file and then quit. There we go. So now if I go back to index.php, you can see that it contains the edited section. There we go. And that's almost all I know about a VI, but there are tons and tons of commands. Like just for example, if you're in the command mode and you press Shift A, then it will go to the end of the line and go into insert mode, so you can start deleting or adding immediately. This is of course very useful if you need to edit something at the end of the line. If you go back to command mode and press D twice, then it deletes the line. So again, lots and lots of commands. In fact, people who are well versed in VI can probably edit files a lot faster than you or I can in a simple editor. I'm not really good enough to do that. I haven't spent the time to figure out all the commands and so on, but it's definitely a very, very powerful way of editing files. With all new technologies that we've touched in this course, like the command line and object-oriented programming, we've just scratched the surface of everything. But I think this is well enough to put you on your way and for you to improve yourself. Especially with something like the command line, you need experience to use it really well. First of all, when you get started, you'll just blunder your way through basic commands like I did, and I'm still not that good at it. But I can get around. I can use SSH. I know some commands, and then the more I use it, the more comfortable I feel. And I started writing my own bash scripts. They're very simple ones, which create a directory and some files at once and so on. But I really think that for new technologies, this is the way forward. So don't worry if you only knew a couple of commands. Just start using it, because until it becomes not really second nature, but until you're comfortable with it, it will actually only slow you down. But you just need to get around that hurdle. You need to get comfortable with it in order for it to speed up your workflow. But trust me, the command line will make you a lot faster. All right, I hope that was useful. In the next 2 lessons, we'll look at some more practical examples of using the command line, and that will give us plenty of experience to move on.